I'm going to be doing something similar to my last video. In my last video, I went back and looked at my predictions from this year to see when I was the closest to getting game scores correct. And in this video, I'm going to be taking a look at which specific teams I was the most accurate on. Before I begin though, I do want to make a quick announcement first. Now that we're in the thick of the off season, there's a bit of a content drought. There's not a whole lot of fresh content to make videos on. So to try and ensure that I don't run out of ideas, I'm not going to be uploading weekly anymore, at least for the time being. I plan to continue to upload once every 2 weeks and focus more of my time and energy on other projects. Just wanted to bring that up so it's not a surprise when I don't upload next week. Anyways, back to the video. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to be describing my predictions as a ratio of my correct predictions to my incorrect predictions, similar to a team's record. So for example, I might say that I went 12-5 predicting the Giants, because I got 12 predictions correct and 5 predictions incorrect. But the Giants sure as hell did not have a record of 12-5. So whenever I say things like that in this video, just know that I'm not referring to that team's record, I'm referring to my predictions. Hopefully that clears up any confusion, so let's start with the bad predictions. And considering that I actually had a very good year of predictions this season, it wasn't that surprising that there weren't really any teams that I did really bad with. There wasn't a single team this season where I got more predictions wrong than right. Which isn't a high bar, but I feel like that's still something to be proud of. There were just 4 teams this season that I did not reach double-digit correct predictions on. And interestingly, 3 of those 4 were just in the NFC West, the Cardinals, 49ers, and Rams. And the Seahawks weren't a whole lot better. I only got 10 of my predictions right for them. I think it's really interesting how poorly I did predicting the NFC West as a whole. There's not a single team that stands out here, which is a stark contrast from the division I predicted the best, the AFC West. But more on that later. The 4th and final team for which I fell short of double-digit correct predictions was the Falcons. All 4 of these teams, the Falcons, Cardinals, Rams, and 49ers, I got 9 predictions correct and 8 predictions incorrect. Which isn't good, but it's not bad enough for me to feel like it's worth talking about, so that's just about all I have to say. Now let's get to the teams I predicted the best. And here's how I expected this to go. I expected to do very well predicting really good teams and really bad teams. Which logically makes sense because if a team is really good, I'm going to predict them to win more often than not, and then they're going to win more often than not. And it's the same if a team's really bad, I'm going to predict them to lose more often than not, and then they're going to lose more often than not. So it makes sense that really good teams like the Lions, Ravens, and Bills, as well as really bad teams like the Raiders and the Saints, I did a very good job of predicting, going 13-4 on my predictions for all of them. But what surprised me was the amount of teams that I did a good job of predicting that fell in the middle of those 2 extremes. Let's start with the Commanders, and I could definitely see the argument to lump the Commanders in with really good teams like the Bills, Lions, and Ravens, but I feel like it's different because they weren't expected to be good. The Commanders were a surprise to just about everybody this season, which is why I think it's still impressive that I got so many of my predictions correct with them. They were another team that I went 13-4 on. The next team I want to talk about is the Dolphins. The Dolphins had a roller coaster of a season. They entered the year as a team that was supposed to be pretty good. Then Tua got hurt almost immediately and they were terrible for a while. Then Tua came back from injury and the team was still pretty mediocre. But they fought and clawed their way into playoff contention until the very end of the season. For a team that had such a chaotic and up and down season, I'm pretty impressed that I once again went 13-4 predicting the Dolphins games. I definitely wasn't expecting them to be one of the teams at the top of the list when I was researching for this video. Next up, as I alluded to earlier, we've got an AFC West team, the Chargers. The Chargers were a very good team this year, but they weren't at the same level as powerhouses like the Bills, Ravens, and Lions. So they weren't really a gimme pick every week. And yet somehow, someway, I went 14-3 predicting Chargers games this year. Definitely another team that I was not expecting to have done that well on. And up next, believe it or not, we've got another AFC West team, the Broncos. The Broncos are like an even harder to predict version of the Commanders. They weren't expected to be good heading into the year, but they also weren't as good as the Commanders. They were still a very middling team, which means it's essentially a coin toss week after week on who's gonna win. You can't really pencil them in for a win or a loss. It's really a judgment call every week, and I got a shocking amount of those judgment calls right. Once again, I went 14-3 predicting Broncos games, which is one of the things discussed in this video that I'm the most proud of. I mean, surely a team like the Broncos can't be easy to predict, right? Certainly not as easy as the best and worst teams in the league. And finally, the crowning achievement of this video is another AFC West team, the Chiefs. I went not 14-3, not even 15-2, but 17-0 predicting Chiefs games this year. That's right, I did not get a single regular season prediction wrong with the Chiefs. Especially compared to how much I struggled to predict the NFC West. I think it's crazy that in the AFC West, the team I quote-unquote struggled with the most was the Raiders, who I went 13-4 on my predictions with. But the Chiefs are the best of the bunch at 17-0. I also went 2-0 on their 2 playoff games before finally guessing a Chiefs game wrong in the Super Bowl. But you could slap an asterisk on that because I didn't pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl because I thought they would win. I picked them to be petty and ensure that I would be satisfied with either outcome of the game. I even said that in my prediction video. You could say I'm coping or whatever, but I really did believe the Eagles were the better team. But anyways, that's it for this video. It's definitely something different, but if you're actually interested, let me know in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe.